hazardous. She's only 17, made us curious. It was a carefree time. How about we jump back and rewind? We were living on Winger and a prayer, just garbage pail kids with mullets and big hair. Let's open up another pack. Gen X wants their future back. Break out the denim jackets and faded band patches. Share memories, Polaroid captured. It's the Gen X marks, the spot portraits.
Everyone, welcome to the Gen X Marks the Spot podcast. I am your host, Joe Augustine. Before we get started with today's interview with Todd Poole, frontman for Roxy Blue, I want to thank Tina from Uniontown, Pennsylvania, for sending in 2 items that she believes left a mark for Gen X. 1, scratch and sniff stickers, and 2, Game Boys. Tina, you rock. Awesome, thank you. If anyone else wants to send in some items that they believe Gen X left their mark with, please do so. We are out there on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Snapchat, Twitter, X. I'm always going to get that wrong, no doubt. Anyway, I recently sat down with Todd Poole of Roxy Blue, and he's talking about how his band skyrocketed on the music scene in 1992. That's the year we're going back to today. Todd's going to talk to us about how he almost became the frontman for Warrant, his close relationship with Jani Lane, and also a behind-the-scenes look at how the iconic, over-exaggerated smile of Jani Lane in the Cherry Pie video came about. Also, did you know? Todd helped form Saliva, one of the most iconic rock bands of the 2000s, who are still out there today playing their asses off. And on a more somber note, Todd wanted to also let everyone know about the passing of original bandmate Scott Trammell, their drummer. And finally, we're going to talk to Todd about why he will no longer play the band's iconic song, Rob the Cradle. Let's get to the interview. Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the show, simply for the fact that I became a Roxy Blue fan before I even heard any of your songs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, it was your album cover that did it for me.
Which album cover? Which album cover? Because there's a story behind that. Is it the album cover with Uncle Sam on the front, or is it the album cover with the splits on the front?
Oh, it's the album cover with Uncle Sam on the front. You know, I was just a horny little teenager, and I saw that.
Yeah, well, that actually, I'm not even sure that we had any. I can't. It's hard for me to remember. I got a pretty good memory. If we actually had anything to do with that, I know that I remember kind of when we went to LA and man, we were so caught up, man. They put us in a big old house in Malibu and I mean, it was just like a whirlwind, man. Our lives were it was crazy, man. We had the biggest producer around at the time. We had the biggest A&R guy at the time. We had the biggest one of the biggest management companies around. And I mean, our team was strong. I mean, I don't even think we realized how much pressure that was on us. But at that point, we didn't really care, man. Roxy's always been, we were always, back in the day when it was Sid, Josh, Scotty T, and myself, it was just balls to the walls. No holds bar. We didn't care. We weren't intimidated by anything. It was like we knew what we were. And I'm not saying we thought we were the greatest, but we weren't afraid to go against all odds. So, because the main thing is we knew we could play. I mean, all the guys that in the band could really play. I mean, way better than I could play. I mean, drum-wise, I was always a really good drummer, but I'm self-taught on the guitar, and that kind of came later. I played a little bit of acoustic in the early days on some songs. You know, I mean, I knew how to play it that much, but the guys like Sid and Josh and Scotty, they were monster players, dude. I mean, GIT graduates, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Josh and Sid, they were GIT graduates, and I mean, Josh still plays in the band, and of course, Sid's a dentist now, and we can talk about that. But I mean, and Scotty unfortunately passed away a few months back.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, he did, and you know, and you probably didn't see much about it because his wife Christy didn't want to. She just said it was his wishes not to make a big deal of it. I had a talk with her about it, and I think Corey Myers, which is a friend of mine who plays with Tom Keeper's band, a keyboard player, he finally called and said, "Man, I gotta let it out of the bag." I don't know if he and Christy talked. I mean, we were very respectful towards his family by all means, but it put Roxy in a weird position because a lot of people are like, you know, 3 months or 2 or 3 months after the fact are going, "Hey man, you know, what's up? We didn't hear about all this. Sorry for your loss." And to me, it was a loss to the music world because Scotty hadn't been with Roxy for a while, man. I mean, did you ever hear the record from Frontiers? Dude, if you have not heard that record, you need to crank that mother up, man, and fucking sit back and put some headphones on and enjoy life for a minute. That record is a fucking blistering record, man. It's completely different than the Want Some record. But you'll freaking love it. And Scotty played on that, and he played his ass off on it. Of course, Josh played on it. I played a lot of guitar on it too, but our lead guitar player is a guy named Jeff Codder who played with a band called Full Devil Jacket. Excuse me, I said Full Metal Jacket. That's
that's why I hesitated. I was like, I don't know if I heard of them.
Well, he played with Jasmine Kane. He played with Every Mother's Nightmare for a period of time too. But you know, Roxy had another record that we made. Because back in the day when we came out, and it's funny because Tom Zutaut, our A&R guy, who, you know, people that don't know that he had Guns N' Roses, he signed Motley Crue to Elektra, who ended up being our management company, Top Rock, who managed Motley Crue. And they ended up picking up Winger. It was Motley Crue, us, and Winger. And then I got my buddy John Roth in Winger, who now plays with Foreigner. It's crazy.
I heard.
But we had another record out, and I saw Tom about a year ago at Rockin' Pod. He actually called me and was like, "Todd, I hadn't talked to him in forever. He lives like up in Chattanooga or Knoxville or whatever now, and Tom's always been a really good guy, but he was like, man, you know, I feel like I kind of, you know, screwed the pooch with you guys, man." He was going through a divorce at the time, not to get into his personal stuff, but I know he had a lot going on, and they were finishing up Use Your Illusion at the time. Mike Klink was our producer. He's trying to finish up Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and we started our record, and which we had a great experience recording with Mike. Man, Tom said, man, you know, so John Kalogner, I remember John Kalogner and Tom Zutaut having a meeting in the Geffen offices saying, you know, and I was sitting right there with him, and I'll never forget John Kalogner going, "Hey man, you know, things are changing." This was right when, like, this is before Nirvana hit. I mean, I actually heard a cassette of the kind of the pre-record before it was completely mastered and all that that Geffen had, that one of the guys, Todd Sullivan at Geffen had, and we were driving around, he played it for me, and I remember him putting it on. It Smells Like Teen Spirit came on, and it wasn't a demo, but it wasn't like the finished product, and I remember it blowing my mind. And man, we're mid in our record, we're working on our record at the time, and it was unlike anything I'd ever heard. And I was like, holy crap, you know, this is freaking good. I mean, it did something to my soul, man. It really did. And as much as I didn't want to admit it, it did something to my soul. So I remember Kalogner telling Tom Zutaut, hey, look, and so Gary Gertz from DGC actually, or Geffen actually signed Nirvana, so I guess Kalogner kind of knew, something's getting ready to change. I guess they could feel it. But anyway, he said, look, it's still, I never considered Roxy Blue a hair band. I really didn't. I know the pictures and stuff that Metal Edge and they put out and some of the magazines put out, it made us look like that. But I don't think that musically we were. But Kalogner told Zutaut, hey, I think you need to put their demo of Times Are Changing out right now while they're finishing the record. They'll be halfway gold by the time their record's released. And I think he kind of foresaw something happening in the music business. I don't know. But he obviously was right, and Tom didn't do that. He waited, and then he waited on the release date and changed the release date and told Geffen they won't change the release date. So it just kind of got held back. I don't blame anybody for that, because things happen for a reason. I mean, the way things happen in life, they just happen, and so I don't really spend a lot of time doing the shoulda, woulda, coulda crap. It is what it is. But we had, and then as you know, we had another. So Seattle swamps in Nirvana, just everybody knows, just changed everything. And even after Nirvana came out, before Alice in Chains came out, I remember one of the guys at our management company, Frank Shackler, he had tried to shop the demo of Alice in Chains to a lot of people or something. I think the story goes, he was telling me, and he's in Memphis, and we're driving around, and I think we were going to a show that we were playing downtown or something in Memphis. And he said, man, let me play you this demo. And he played me the demo of Facelift. Dude, I had never heard anything like that in my life. That was the heaviest shit I'd ever heard at the time. I mean,
right?
In that realm. Yeah, and it was crazy. But so after everything happened, the fortunate thing for Roxy is we had an unbelievable lawyer named Jim Zumwalt out of Nashville. And he was absolutely an incredible lawyer. And I kind of found out he found us in Memphis through a guy named Nico Liris, who was actually recording the band at the time, doing demos. Sid and I lived above a studio called Cotton Row in a pre-production studio we made into an apartment. So it was kind of we had a rehearsal space. I mean, Roxy got together quick, dude. I mean, Sid had Josh, my cousin Ronnie Knight played drums at the time, and we basically met. Sid and I met, and then next thing you know, it was like as easy as, hey, you want to get a band together? Yeah. And within 2 or 3 days we're rehearsing. So, and then Scotty obviously came along after we got our deal. But so after everything was done and we traveled and everything was going really good for us, well, Seattle started taking over, and all the record companies, I don't know if you knew this either, but Jani Lane found Roxy Blue. He discovered us.
Well, I didn't know that, but what I did know about Jani Lane, when he was leaving Warrant, and I forget which time, he actually referred you to the band.
I actually went out there. Jani called and said, because he discovered us. So we were supposed to go with their management company, and we brought their management company in and took them to strip bars and all kind of stuff, like numerous amounts of times. I'm still good friends with the guys in Warrant, but Jani and I used to live, stay at his house a lot, and Eric Turner's house a lot. But Jani found our band in a little bar called Rascals here in Memphis on the square. We were playing, and but they wanted us to go with their management, and our lawyer and Tom Zutaut from Geffen, they were like, hey, we were shopping around for producers. We were shopping around and back in those days, man, it was no online crap. People came and saw you. You had to have a buzz going in your town or around the region, and we did. And we were packing it out. And but they kept saying, hey, look, there's a Motley Crue's management. Doug Thaler just left Doc McGee, and the Bon Jovi thing, and he took Motley Crue after the Russia thing, and he's looking for a new band, and he really likes you guys, and he and his team want to come in and see you guys. So we had a show, and I talked to Jani about it. I remember saying, look, man, they really want us to go with Top Rock Management, Doug Thaler. And Jani was cool. Jani was like, and we put us on a weird position because they were going to take us out. Like, you know, that tour they had that was Warrant, Firehouse, and Trickster?
You know, there were so many tours back in my day.
Well, when we were supposed to be on that tour, and we would have been, I would have said. So, and this is right before, like, Seattle's kind of creeped in and done this, but it hadn't really yet. You know, this was like, but anyway, long story short, it was, we ended up, Jani said, look, man, I probably would do the same thing you guys wanted, you know, because, you know, then we were with Motley Crue's management, and we were scheduled to go on tour with Motley Crue. Tommy Lee actually announced it at the Troubadour, then said, hey, these guys are going on tour with Motley Crue. And Vince, that was when Vince was getting out of the band. I mean, he was, Karabi was actually, they were working on the new record with John Karabi, which I think is a fabulous record, actually. But anyway, as we all know, all that didn't really pan out. And so we had another record that we were guaranteed out of our contract to do. But going back to how good our lawyer was, he had put in our contract. And a lot of people that don't know back in the day, I don't know how they are anymore, but the contracts were really thick. So if you thought you were going to sit down and read that contract, chances were you weren't going to do it. I mean, you had to have a lawyer. When we didn't know it thereof and all that kind of stuff that they put in there that twist things around. But Jim's on Walt was awesome. Not only did he found us through Nico, who was recording us, he actually was a lawyer for my father-in-law, who ended up being my father-in-law, Jimmy Jameson from Survivor.
Right, yeah, man. What a great singer.
Yeah, he was the most awesome singer. I mean, he'd come over for Christmas and he could make Jingle Bells a smash, even though it already is smash. But so anyway, we had another record, and Scotty had a little studio in his house, so we did all the pre-production, and he and I did pretty much all the writing for that record. I did a lot of writing. Sid and I did most of the writing for the first record. I think Scotty and Josh, they had their hands in, like Rob the Cradle and stuff like that. And I think the band actually said, hey, dude, we got this song that we worked on, and come in and write some lyrics to it. So, but we had another record, and the record was really good. And I remember Doug Thaler flying in and hearing the demos and going, man, dude, this is really good. But I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all, they're going to shelve it. They're not going to put anything behind it. And it's going to be a tax write-off or whatever for them. And that is about the time that I've decided to go to LA and do some recording and stuff with Warrant. You know, your dreams are crushed. I mean, you're getting people telling you in the, you know, big guys that are huge, hey dude, you know, you guys, we were putting a big push behind you guys. I knew that they were working on they had the storyboard pretty much laid out for Times Are Changing. That was going to be our home run hitter for MTV. And it all got kind of slashed because our kind of bands weren't the future of the record industry anymore. And everybody jumped on the Seattle bandwagon. And I don't know that I ever got mad about that, because I don't know why. Because I thought I actually liked that music. So, you know, I was in a weird situation because it was killing my career, but I loved the music. And so that record never came out that we wanted to do. So the band split up, man. And he had in our contract, if I ever left the band, that we owed no money. We were out, and I left. The band just kind of went their own way. And at that point, Sid was out at that point. I don't want to go into everything that happened. It wasn't really all Sid or anything, but it was a weird situation. And we brought in Wayne Sweeney, rest in peace, my best friend Wayne Sweeney, who played with he and I started Saliva. I'm giving you a lot of info, bro.
Well, yeah, you
So
were actually their drummer back when they were starting to form.
right, I did the first record before they got him signed. It was me and Wayne actually started the band. So, and you know, we had a lot going. I co-wrote a lot of the songs, and so we had a little lawsuit going with that. But everything kind of panned out, and I'm still friends with everybody. Yeah, so Wayne joined Roxy, and we had some really killer stuff too, man. I mean, we really did. It was different. When you have Sid Boogie Fletcher and Josh Weil and Scotty T and Todd Poole, that Roxy was that Roxy. That was the Want Some Roxy. But if you change any of those entities, it's not the same band anymore, because that music came together. You know, when you're in a good band, when it just naturally happens. You know, you don't have to sit there and pick things out. It just happens. There's a sound that happens, and that was the sound. It wasn't forced. We worked hard. Oh, we worked hard. We practiced every day because we had our eye on the prize, and we wanted it, and we ended up getting the prize, and we got a good prize. I mean, back in 1992, we scored a $400,000 publishing deal for a first-time band in 1992, and a $500,000 record deal that would be millions. But you don't know till later in life that all a record deal is a bank loan. You know, somebody comes up and tell you, man, we got a $2 million record deal. Well, dude, I hope you sell a lot of records, because if not, they're going to have you by the balls for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it was a good time, man. We had a good time. But after, you know, I went out to LA and did that with Warrant, and I'll never forget one night Tommy Lee picked me up from Eric Turner's house. Eric Turner played with Warrant, and Joey was over there, Joey Allen, and he was on the phone with Tommy, and he said, well, you know, Todd's in town and we're playing and everything. So Tommy actually came by and got me. We were supposed to meet everybody at this bar, strip bar or some bar, I don't remember. But Tommy took me out to Doug Thaler's house. And the whole time I played him kind of the cassette that I brought of some songs that I'd been writing. And he said, look, dude, I like the guys at Warrant and everything, but I don't think that you need to do this, because Roxy hasn't made it big enough to where you can't reinvent yourself. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of got it. And at that time, I was kind of in a weird situation because, well, I don't want to get into all that anymore. It's just I decided to come back to Memphis, and I love the guys at Warrant, and we wrote some pretty cool songs together, and I still love those guys, and I've played a couple shows with them since, with Roxy, not with their band, and they're all really good. But you know, and of course, Jani passing away was a horrible situation for everybody. What a talent that guy was. I mean, dude, I used to sit around his house. I kid you not. This is God's honest truth. Well, everything I'm telling you is the truth. But, man, he and I used to sit around the house, and we'd go out and get freaking plastered, dude, and sit at his place. And I remember one night him saying he had played me some stuff. And I know Jerry Dixon and Eric had played me Uncle Tom's Cabin in Eric's Forerunner one night, and I was blown away. I'm like, holy shit, this is y'all's new record. This is gonna be badass. Well, JD told me, yeah, but they wanted me to write, and they felt like this wasn't gonna be a good first single. And JD wanted that to be the first single. JD wanted to be harder. He played me Cherry Pie on the acoustic guitar, dude.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. And as I was looking at all three of them, because I was like fucking plastered on tequila 1800, man. But yeah, man, you know, all that, you know, when you're doing stuff like that, the wheel was going so fast that you almost didn't have time to soak it in and enjoy it because you were moving, you were going to this town and this town and this town and playing, and you know you believe in what you're doing, and all the guys in Roxy at the time, we just believed in what we were doing, and I think we were always thinking ahead. We were a live band. I mean, when we played live, that's where we shined. I think that we were trying to capture that on tape. But we were just a little late for the show, you know. When our record came out, that kind of music, it was a lot of band. It was getting really saturated. A lot of bands that sounded, you couldn't tell one band apart from the next. I thought you could tell. The ones you could tell apart were the ones you thought, well, maybe they're going to do something. But it was kind of they were a day late and a dollar short, you know. I mean, Flannels. I remember Scotty T and I walking around in L.A. and man, within a week, I mean, we're turned around and everybody's got flannels and combat boots on.
Gotta admit, I drifted that way too, unfortunately.
I did too in a way, but I kind of went more Axl Rose's. I mean, I did the combat boots and stuff on stage. You kind of just tried to go with it a little bit, but keep who you were, and it just did, you know. I'm always about being who you are and being real. I tried not to follow. I know a lot of people thought that Roxy was trying to copy Van Halen, and hey, we probably were a little bit because they were a big influence on us with me doing the splits, and you know, Sid wore the overalls and stuff. We kind of just took our idols, and that's who we liked, and that's what we were doing. We weren't trying to be a direct copycat of them, but people saw us that way. But we were a freaking entertaining band live. And that's what Tom Zutaut from Geffen, that's what our A&R guy, that's what he saw in us. A newer, old school Van Halen. We kind of went with it, and it kind of backfired on us a little bit. But nevertheless, that's what we were about back then. And Roxy was we were a fun band, man, and I had a great freaking time. Millions of stories, met a lot of great people, had a lot of good times, man. I was there the night. I mean, this is something I feel like this is a crazy story that nobody really knows. I mean, there's people that know, but I've told it in interviews. But so you know the video Cherry Pie, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, you know they kind of make fun of his smile and his teeth, right?
Oh yeah, I thought that was just like didn't even belong in that video.
Do you know why they did that?
I have no clue.
So Jani, I was redoing the vocals for Times Are Changing. Mike Klink called me and said, hey, all the other guys came back to Memphis. And Mike Klink said, hey, man, I want to get you to – he set up studio time over at the same studio they did Patience in, you know, the video, Guns N' Roses Patience. Right. And Mike said, look, we're going to redo the vocals for Times Are Changing. I think what you have's good. I think you got a better one in you. So we sat there, and I remember Jerry Dixon, and I think it might have been, I know Eric Turner was there. Eric and Jerry came by the studio while we were recording that evening, and they said, when you get done, come over to this. I think it was the Reds. I don't know what it was, but back in those days in L.A., they called club, the same building would be called a different club on different nights. People would like sponsor the club or whatever. But anyway, so after I got done recording, me and Mike thought we had a great one. That's what ended up being on the record. I said, cool. So I got a ride or whatever, and I went over to this bar, and all the guys in Warrant were there, and they were at the bar. So I went up, and they're kind of spread out. Me and Jani and Eric were kind of closer to this bar section. There was a bunch of people around. And out of nowhere, this is the freaking God's honest truth, and it's crazy. I can see it so vividly in my head. A guy swung, and I ducked, and he hit Jani right in the mouth, about knocked him over the bar, knocked his teeth out.
Oh, my.
And then he swung and I think he tried to hit Eric, but he missed. But he turned around, he hit Jerry Dixon, and man, it hurt Jerry bad. I mean, it was cold cocking people. And dude ran, but it ends up his girlfriend worked there, and the guy was pissed because he thought that the guys in Warrant were kind of hitting. I don't know. I didn't, I don't know that, but I think they ended up, from the story was from them, their bouncers, the guys who hang out with Warrant, they ended up getting dude when he left the club that night. That's crazy stuff, because I remember I went to Jani's house. He had to go. He got reconstructive surgery and all that, and ended up doing, looking fine, I mean, but he went through a lot. Jani wasn't no little dude either, man. He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah. Wow.
With a buttload of talent, dude. That dude could pick up a guitar and just, he could do a Mac Davis on you. You just name a subject and he'd write you a hit song. I mean, he was incredible. But that was a bad situation, man. And Jani was a bona fide rock star, man. I mean, proof's in the pudding. He wrote some of the greatest songs in that era of rock and roll there ever were. And when it all started going south, I think it hurt him to the point where he saw his climb where he wanted to be being kind of sheltered a little bit. So I didn't see Jani forever. My father-in-law, Jimmy Jameson, was on some kind of Voices of Rock thing, and Jani was out with him a few times, and he loved Jani, but he said, dude just was drinking a lot. And of course, we all know what happened.
I know there were some demons that there may be some truth to it, may not be some truth to it with Jani, and we don't have to get into that, but I can tell you, going back to the Cherry Pie album, now that song hooked me so much back in my teen days. But as I got older and I listened to the album from beginning to end, Cherry Pie did not fit the mold of that album whatsoever.
No, you got Mr. Rainmaker on there, which is one of my favorites. And Jani wrote a song, and you've seen this quoted. He's quoted this many a times, but he said that one. He said, "I'll only be remembered by this song."
Yep.
But that's how big the song got. I mean, you mentioned Cherry Pie, Jani Lane did it. I mean, it's just he wrote an iconic song for that era, and you can't deny that song whether you like it or not. I mean, it's a sing-along song. But anyway, that was a bad deal when he passed, and I remember Eric calling me, and it was it's almost, it was unreal, you're just like, no way, there's just no way. But I had not talked to Jani in, it'd been a while since before that, so I didn't really know what was going on. I see him on some TV programs and stuff, but back in the day we were tight. I mean, Jani was a shit, man. He was. And how ironic enough is that me and Sid actually went and saw some shows, and they invited us when they were courting us. We went, backstage at some shows, and they were opening for Motley Crue. So how weird was that? Then we ended up going with Motley Crue's management. It was a time I can't explain. Everything we were going through was like a fairy tale. I mean, you try to tell somebody that kind of stuff, and they're like, yeah, right. I mean, I don't even care if you believe it or not. All you got to do is look it up. It's there. But, you get older, and none of it really means any. All it is really good memories to me now. I mean, I had a great time, and, and then I went on to do other things after that. I started Saliva. So Wayne and I was actually still singing. I actually started a band called Screaming Jesus. And it was I would just write songs on an electric guitar that I got in LA. And I got it for the bus, but I got home and I just started writing, got with some guys, and then that evolved. And then Wayne and I got together. Wayne heard that band and said, "Hey, dude, if you ever want to get together and do something," because Wayne and I grew up as kids playing music together, and he said, hey, dude, if you ever want to do something, let me know. I always thought Wayne was like the shit on guitar. So I was like, okay. So he and I started a band, and I was still playing guitar, singing. We didn't even really have a name yet. I had a studio built in the lower part of my house at the time that I'd bought, and uh, it was soundproof, and we would just practice all night long. And then, so the drummer that we had was going through a custody battle with his ex-wife or whatever. So he just said, look, man, I just don't really have time to do this. I'm really, and we understood. So here we are. So Wayne and I would just go down in the studio or basement or whatever down there, and it was like shut the door, and you're just like in your own little private Idaho down there, and we'd do a bunch of cocaine and just write songs. And well, we started. I got on the drums. My drums were set up. It were my drums. So I was like, well, shit, I'll just play drums. And I had a mic, and Wayne would play, and we just started writing songs together like that, and just having fun, you know. And we got word that, hey, man, you know, Josie's not playing with Blackbone anymore. You guys should get him over here. So we called him one night to come over. And of course, he shows up like 2 hours late. He and some dude walk in. It's like 10 at night. We didn't care. You can't hear anything at my house anyway because it was soundproof. And we played, dude, and he just basically screamed. I mean, me and Wayne had some ideas, and then we just kind of jammed. And our bass player at the time, Matt Dees, he ended up playing a 714 with me, but he just said, Todd, man, you know, I love you playing drums, but I really liked it better when you were singing because I'm not getting this. Well, me and Wayne, we heard something. Out of all that chaos, Wayne and I said, dude, there is some kind of sound here. We heard it. Through all the chaos, we heard that beginning Saliva thing. We got together with Josie, and we got a call from a guy, and he said, he actually plays with Everybody's Nightmare now, named John Gutter, and he says, hey, dude, I know a bass player. Y'all need a bass player? And we like, yeah. So I met Dave Novotny at the Stage Stop parking lot, this bar, and then he came over to our place, and we started playing, dude, and all of a sudden, Saliva was, Josie had the name, and it was created, dude. That's where Saliva was created. Chris DeBaldo wasn't even in the band at the time. We played a gig at the Omni New Daisy Theater on Bill Street as a 4-piece. And the thing was, is Josie said, I said, man, we should get another guitar player. And he said, well, yeah, I want Chris DeBaldo to be in the band because he played in Blackbone with him. But he said, I want him to be in the band, but he wants to hear you play drums because he always just kind of knew me as a singer. And he said he wants to hear you play drums before he commits. And I was like, all right. And I'll never forget this. At the end of the first song we were playing, I looked down, and Chris had come to the front of the stage and looked up at me and gave me 2 thumbs up. And he was in the band the next day.
Nice.
And that's how Saliva started. And we practiced 5 nights a week, dude, as long as we could practice. And I picked Josie up every day at his mom's house and brought him to practice, and we practiced, and we wrote, and we practiced, and we wrote, and we recorded all of our practices. And, you know, it was just, we knew what we wanted. And then I got us hooked up with Brian Coleman, who was Nickelback's manager, and we met him in Nashville. He came and saw us play in Nashville, and we met him. And then I got out of the band, dude. It was, I don't want to go through all that, but there was just some things that were going on, and Chris got in trouble doing some stuff, and I was trying to keep it the way it was, and drugs probably had a lot to do with it, with me and the whole deal at the time. And then I had a bad motorcycle wreck, dude. I hit a telephone pole at 90 on a motorcycle. And
oh my God.
lived. And so I was out. So I was asked to come back at some point by Bob Marlette and Wayne Sweeney. They could talk Josie into it because Bob wanted me back because of my drumming. And that's about all I know about it. I'm not down talking Paul or anything like that. Paul's always been nice to me, so I don't really, Paul Crosby, I don't really have anything bad to say about Paul. He's always been a sweetheart to me, and he's a good guy. He got a good break. He got in a band that was already kicking ass, so he ended up doing quite well. So, but yeah, that was the story of Saliva, dude. And I mean, it just didn't work out that way. It just didn't work out. And I think about a year and a half later, they ended up getting signed and coming out with a record that, you know, did very well. And a lot of people don't know that I co-wrote Your Disease. I co-wrote Beg. I co-wrote Must Have Been. I co-wrote about 5 songs on the first record. And I ended up getting compensated for those later on after stuff. But, you know, and then Josie's back now. He's doing his thing. And, you know, that's a whole nother story. And we won't get into that because that ain't got shit to do with me, you know. And I went, but I did go play drums with my father-in-law, Jimmy Jameson, for a good while. I'd say a couple of years. And, dude, we played, like, across the world. And that was fun times, man. We've had Jerry Riggs on guitar, Hal Butler on keyboards, Barry Dunaway on bass, who both he and Jerry play with 38 Special now. I mean, we had a monster band, and we were doing some big shows, man. And we actually had another tour that Jimmy was going to talk to us about that we were going to go on, and he had to go to California. We had a birthday party for him at his house, and then that weekend he had to go to California. And then 2 weeks later, it was my birthday, and we were going over there to celebrate that, and we were going to talk about the tour, and he died that night. He died on my birthday. How weird.
Oh my gosh, dude.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh man. I don't even know what to say about that. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, hey man, Jimmy was a good guy, and there's a lot to that we won't get into. I mean, my wife, I mean, she just adored her father, and he adored her, and it was rough on her, and we tried to make the best of it, you know, as far as we did. 5 years we did benefits for St. Jude. It brought in Jimmy's name, with a guy named Scott Ennis, who's the voice of Scooby-Doo and Shaggy and all that. And we brought in everybody from Mickey Thomas of Starship to Mike Reno from Loverboy. I've become friends with all these guys because of this. John Cafferty from the Beaver Brown Band. John and me are really good friends. He and his wife, Terry Lee, are just great people. Me and Mike Reno became really good friends. We brought in Chubby Checker. We brought in Charlie Hom from Foghat. We brought in all these folks. Kelly Keegan from Night Ranger. I mean, we brought in so many people, man. Tunes, you know, who just passed away. He was a sax player for the Beaver Brown Band. We had all kind of people, and we raised so much money for St. Jude. You can never raise enough money for St. Jude, you know, I mean, because it's just costs like $1 million a day to run the place. But we felt like we did our part. And then my wife Amy, just she had to lay it down, man. I think it was just too emotionally hard for her. I enjoyed it because I did a lot of the work as far as getting the music. I coordinated the concerts. But for her, I think it was just emotionally, mentally exhausting and trying on her because, you know, that's her dad.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people from all around the world came, man. People were flying in. It was freaking awesome. But and then we ended up laying it off after 5 years, and then we had a 10-year anniversary one. And, Jim Pedrick, the guy who wrote Eye of the Tiger and all the hits, all the 38 Special hits and everything. Jim has actually, he came to every one of them. I mean, he was a big part. I was able to get up there and sing with him every year Survivor songs, and it was just, freaking surreal, man. I mean, and so yeah, but so that's where I'm at now. I mean, after all that was done, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do with. So we did a record for Frontiers. We got asked to do a record with Frontiers, and I remember because we were rehearsing to do a show for Brett Michaels and my friends in Tora Tora and Every Mother's Nightmare was playing that show too at Bank Plus Amphitheater in Mississippi, and we got a call from a guy named Dick Teeter at Frontiers, and he's like, "Hey, we just signed Tora Tora, and we really want to sign you guys," and blah blah blah. We ended up going with them, and we made a record, and it's a really good record. You should check it out. We're not with them anymore. We're just by ourselves, and we're going in the studio next weekend to record our first song in a couple of years. New lineup. We're 5-piece. We're like Foo Fighters now, dude. I mean, we're not the Foo Fighters, but I play guitar basically on everything now. Me and Jeff Codron and and we got Josh is still playing. A guy named Rob Cooley plays guitar, and then Chris Cook on the drums. He's like Tommy Lee. He's awesome. So we got a good band, dude. It's just, it's a different. We keep the name, people. So you and I talked about something. I know you haven't even really asked me a question yet. I'm sorry about that, but we had talked about Rob the Cradle the other night.
I was going to tell you, like, you're a good dude, man, for doing all that, and your family and your wife with Jimmy and so forth. And, one of the things that struck me when we were talking yesterday was one of the songs that I completely just jammed out to and geeked out over was Rob the Cradle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was our that was our hot for teacher, or so to speak, I guess. I don't know. That's the only thing I compare it to. I mean, it was so I didn't really write that song. I mean, I wrote the lyrics, and it was a quick song. I probably had a little bit to do with some arrangements and stuff, but the band kind of wrote it. I'll never forget walking into our rehearsal place and saying, "Boy, that's really Van Halen-ish." And I wasn't saying that in a bad way, but I was saying it like, wow, that really sound. When they just played the music for me, it was so good. And I'm like, dude, that sounds like Van Halen. And dude, I'm 26 years old at the time. And I'm like, so I just wrote these lyrics. They just came to me, I think the hook came. And if you watch the video, that's what the song is about. It's just about young people hooking up and seeing a young girl or seeing a girl that's basically your age. I can't do that song anymore. So just so everybody out there knows, we don't play that song. We haven't played that song in a few years. I came to the point where I had to have a meeting with everybody and say, guys, I can't do this song anymore because I'm older now, and I have a teenage daughter, and I can't justify that song. I can't drive by the schoolyard in my brand new fancy car anymore because I feel like a pedophile. So, I mean, I can't do that. So, and I've had people say, well, dude, it's just a song. And I'm like, yeah, but songs mean a lot to me. And so at first we decided we'll do it at selective shows. If people at the end of the night, which is a hard song to do at the end of the night, but if somebody says, hey, if we get a big enough request and people start going, Rob the Cradle, which happened once or twice, we'll play it. But other than that, I think that we're strong enough that we don't have to make it on one song. So and I've had people leave, in the earlier, we were saying, hey, y'all didn't play Rob the Cradle. I know. They'll get over it. I told the guys they'll get over it. And as long as we put on a good show and play good songs, they might leave and go, wow, they didn't even do Rob the Cradle, but they'll figure it out. Why? I think then we have so many songs now to do a show that you got to be real selective. So we only play now. So what I was telling you before, I always look at what we are now. We're not the same band we were then, and I'm not going to try to be either. I mean, yes, the guys, we can play the stuff on the first record and it sounds really good, but it's not the same entity. It just doesn't sound, it's just not the same thing. So I wrote a bunch of new songs in the band. We got a good chemistry, and we play stuff off the Frontiers record. We play some of the new stuff we got. And then we do some stuff off Want Some. And sometimes we'll play, we always play Times Are Changing. And we always play Love on Me. It's a great sing-along. People love singing along to that song. So those three are always usually played. I mean, Love's Got a Hold of Me. It depends on how long a set we're doing. But that's always a good opener. And we just got so many songs now. And we did Squeeze Box for a long time until recently. And we might pull it out here and there, but we got we do a rendition of Eleanor Rigby now that's really good. And then we've been opening our live shows with Hello There by Cheap Trick.
Nice.
Yeah, so we just kind of, and what got me to doing a lot of that, well, we were playing the Whiskey a Go-Go on Sunset, and we did Eleanor Rigby, and then the next night, Enough's Enough's playing, and I went to the show, and I see that Chip's Enough, he said, hey, I heard you guys did Eleanor Rigby, and I'm like, yeah, you guys do it too, I don't know. He's like, yeah, man, but I'm just telling you, are you a big Paul McCartney fan? I'm like, I'm huge. I love Paul McCartney. He's like, he's it to me. He's like, me too, man. So we kind of hit it off. And they still do a really, really, really good show. I mean, Chip does a great job kind of making all that happen. So he still does a really good job. But he's the one who, he was telling me, he says, well, we kind of started throwing some cover songs into our set, because what that does is it keeps people alert if they hear something they know. So they doesn't give them a chance to go to the fucking bar if they don't know a song. And I thought, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I like that. And it gives you an opportunity to play a song that you always liked, So we've decided not to do too much of that, but we do a few, like, Hello There ain't but about a minute long at most. So, I mean, it ain't that long. So,
yeah,
it might be a little longer than that. But, yeah, so, but hey, ask me a question.
Well, well, you answered most of the questions that I had, but it's okay.
That's what most people say. I try to give you kind of a rundown and a story of what it's all been about for me, and it doesn't turn into a questionnaire, and it's more of a listening piece. I think I told you that a DJ here in Memphis gave me a tape of Ted Nugent. I did an interview, and he said, that's the worst interview I've ever done, Todd. You suck. Take this cassette. This is a long time ago. He said, take this cassette home and listen to my interview with Ted Nugent, and then our next interview we do, we'll see how you do. And then I killed it. I just learned that all you got to do is say hello, how you doing, and tell me a little bit about your career, and then if you're good enough at it, you can just roll it off the tongue and just kind of give somebody a broad spectrum of what it's been like from day one,
Our listeners, they want to hear you. They don't want to hear me. So let's just look at it that way.
But if you have any specific questions that I didn't cover, I'll be glad to answer them if I can.
Well, I was hoping you could give me a little inside information on the new music that's coming out for Roxy Blue.
Okay. I never try to shoot to sound like anybody. I'm trying to be original. I just write off the cuff, man. I write what means something to me. Our first single that we're going to probably release, and we've decided to maybe try to do it. We might end up making a record, but I think we're just going to try to release a single, like one song at a time. That seems to be the way people are kind of doing it now. Of course, I've always been an album guy. I've always been a CD guy or an EP or whatever, because if you go to a show, a lot of people, they want that. They want to buy it. Yeah, I mean, I do if I go to a show. So, but our first single that we're going to record next week is called Sign of the Times, and it's it's really cool, man. I got to tell you, it's got a great guitar riff that our guitar player Rob Cooley came up with. I believe he came up with it. I might be wrong. One of the other guys might correct me on that, but everybody in the band jams on it, man. And it's the song. I wrote the song basically about what we all go through now, because I'm an old school guy. So there's a lot of things that people are faced with in this time that we live in. You know, I try not to force lyrics. I'm really good under pressure. So if I know I'm going in the studio, I might have the song might be kind of completed, but I don't have all my lyrics down, because I can usually write lyrics in like 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I'm on it,
nice.
but I have to be almost have to be pressured into it, and it has to click. I do most of my writing in my truck. So I'm on my car or whatever. That's where I got solitude. And I remember writing the lyrics of that. And I always knew what I wanted to write about. I just needed the right words to say it. And the song is about the social media that we're faced with these days. And you don't know, they force feed you to believe everything that's being said. And half of it is, especially these days with AI, you don't know what to believe and what not to believe. And you're kind of on the fence. You want to believe something, and then you find out it wasn't real. So you don't know what's real and what's not real. And that's the sign of the times that we live in right now. And
it's scary.
like one of the lyrics is like, it's the sign of the times that we're going through. It's inside of your mind, and it leaves a bruise.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, the whole thing is that's, and it's not a negative song. It's just one of the songs that makes you think. But it rocks, man. It's a rock song, and we'll see how it goes. And we've got some other on deck that when we get this one done, we might go in and then cut another one and put it out, and just see how they do. And it's just a lot different. I don't really call anything a music business anymore, because there's so much self-done stuff now. I mean, there's with The Voice and America's Got Talent and American Idol, and then now it's just like, you know, there's so many people out there that can be internet sensations that the day of the paying your dues in a smoky, shitty smelling bar and grinding the shit off of you when you get home at night, and those days are over, man. I mean, to make it. I mean, nobody's coming out to see you. You know, maybe you might get lucky and have an A&R guy, or if there are such things anymore. All the record business, the way it used to be, where people would just hear about you, they'd come out, they'd send an A&R guy out to see you, and then he just got excited by the whole vibe of the thing, and he'd hopefully sign you. You know, those days were fun, and those are the days I lived in. And these days are so much different. And I'm not saying, I hate to say that it's a bad thing, because there are a lot of talented people out there that would have never gotten the chance to be out there, and they would have missed the boat, and maybe the world would have missed the boat too, not seeing them. There's a lot of people out there that I don't think deserve to be doing what they're doing, because the business can make you whatever they want to make you, if there is a business. I mean, people can, but you know, these days, so to give you an example, I remember a group of people, these guys were sitting out one night, and I don't know where I was, but I remember a guy said, yeah, I made a record. And I'm like, what instrument do you play? And he goes, well, I don't really play an instrument. But they did it all on computers. And I mean, it's that's the way people are doing it. I mean, they got it now where AI can do it for you.
Yeah.
And to me, and look, like I said, I'm not downing that. That's none of my business. I try to stay in my realm and do my thing. But if you're a musician, there's a feeling you get when you're in the room with other musicians and you play music together and it clicks. There's a feeling that I can't even explain to you unless you're part of that. It's like it's a high that you get no drug can give you, you know. I mean, it's the same way when people say, well, I wonder why they're still going out and playing. Those guys are big time. They could retire and never worry about it. It ain't about the money at that point. It's that rush that they get when they get 20,000 people screaming back at them.
Yeah.
The high and the energy that your body absorbs during that it will take your breath away. I mean, when I played big shows, well, back when I was playing really big, I played with Cheap Trick not a couple years ago here at Grayson Soundstage. They had a big stage, a big arena, and we opened for Cheap Trick, and it was jam packed. I still got that feeling but I'm experienced now. But back in the day, they'd always tell me, look, man, when you hit the big stages, you got to pace yourself. You know, Roxy was always that band. We came out 100% on freaking high the whole time. But I was in good shape, man, and I'm still in pretty good shape. But I mean, that's the problem a lot of bands have. They'll come out and they give it all away in the first song because the energy is not necessarily just coming from you. You're getting that energy back from the crowd, and it's hard to explain, but it sucks the life out of you. But you're excited, and I guess the adrenaline just kind of drains you, and you almost have to learn how to pace yourself so you don't blow yourself out by the third song, and then you're toast. So you have to be prepared for that. That's why you see a lot of musicians work out. A lot of musicians they're going on tour because it does wear you out, man. It's not back in the Roxy days, I did that a lot. I stretched every day. I worked out. I did vocal exercises, and then later on in life, I got the Kurt Cobain syndrome where I was like, look, man, I'm either going to have it tonight or I'm not, but I'm probably going to have it. You know, you just go out and do your thing, and you don't really worry about all that kind of stuff. You just go out and play, and you just do your thing. And so yeah, man, so the new record, I'm not sure. I can't really talk about a record right now. I know that we have right now I'll probably have about 5 to 7 songs. I'd say at least 4 or 5 that I feel like, or we as a band feel like are really good enough to record as far as where we set our standards. We made a pact that when we wrote Sign of the Times, that was one of the first songs I'd written a few ideas, and they were really good, and we were playing them and rehearsing them. And then when Sign of the Times came up, I remember all of us, there was something about when we did the change to go to the chorus. I remember Jeff had I think it was that song, but somebody in the band will come up with it. Well, maybe we should hit this chord instead of this chord, and it just lightened it up. And I remember all of us sitting there going, okay, look, every song we can write. I'll sit there and write 20 songs, but the only ones that we're going to keep for the moment, they have to reach this plateau. They have to be. We don't want to fall short of this, because anything short of this. So that's where we're at. And, you know, I don't really know exactly what that means, except that we just kind of shooting high. I mean, we're all older now, so it's like everything we do it for is for a different reason. You know, I'm not chasing a record deal. I'm not doing any of that anymore. I still love to play. We love to go out and play live. We love recording. We love releasing music. It's all about giving music to people so they can hear it, and you making music just to make sure you're still breathing and you're still alive, you know. So how weird is that, man? Warrant Cherry Pie is on my screen in my truck for the radio stations playing it right now. That is fucking weird as shit, man. Holy crap, man.
That right there is called synchronicity, my friend. Jani is sending you a sign of the times.
Yeah, you're talking. Yeah, that's it. And you're talking about me, boy. I hear you. So, yeah, man. So crazy times, man. But you know, I I had a really good run at the time, and if a lot of people out there, if anybody, the Roxy fans, I know I kind of vaguely kind of said something about Scotty, but I will let everybody know that. So Scotty T died of a few years back, and I believe this was before we did. I believe this is before we actually recorded the Frontiers record. I'm guessing. I think Scott, and I hadn't talked to Scotty at that point. He and I did a few things with F&A Records in Nashville and stuff, and got the demos together for that. But Scotty had like a triple bypass or something. I mean, every time I saw Scotty, he was great. But I believe he did that, and then. But from my story, from what I understand, is that he had an infection, and I guess in one of his arteries or something. So he just went in for a routine deal, and they were going to try to get rid of the infection, and he didn't make it through the night. And that was pretty hardcore. So Sid is a dentist. He's doing quite well. He has his own practice. He was in Atlanta for a while. Now he's here in Memphis, Tennessee. He's got his own dentistry in Germantown, Tennessee here. Josh is actually in the medical field, but Josh is playing bass like a beast, like he always has. And he and I still trying to carry the torch for Roxy Blue. So, yeah. And I had another band. If you ever have a chance to go listen to it, you should. It was one of my favorite bands I ever created. It was a band, and I'm going to tell you this because the guitar player who lives in Vegas now just texted me, and it's crazy. And I guess he was texting me just to and it reminded me I didn't say anything about this band, but it was a band I had called 714, and it was four of us. And dude, if anybody out there can get on YouTube or whatever and go check it out, we had 2 records out. I wrote 2 records for that, and the first one's just called 714, and the second one's called American Tragic, and both of them are just records that I'm super proud of. Great listen for people that want to rock out, and they're good records. I'm not trying to blow my horn, but they are really good records, and I'm proud of them. And of course, the last Roxy Blue record on Frontiers, if you go to Roxy Blue on YouTube, you'll see that one, and that's a great listen too. It's a really good record. Lot of good points that I wrote about in my life are on there, and there's a couple videos out for that too. There's a video for a song called Rockstar Junkie, and there's a song called How Does It Feel that actually got pretty major radio play here in Memphis and in around the region. So, just some trivia there for you to check out. And of course, it's always good to crank up the old Roxy Blue Want Some record and try to take you back to the day.
Listen, I am going to definitely check 714 out.
You got to, man. You're going to love it. And if you're a Roxy fan, so
yeah,
you'll like it all, but you're really going to like the new Roxy record. And your first thing you go, wow, this is nothing like Want Some. But most of the people, I'd say 99% of the people were blown away and loved it. They got a great response on it. Frontiers was able to recoup on it. It was a good record.
Nice.
But we had a few diehard, and I didn't even get mad about it. We had a few diehard Roxy fans that was like, this is nothing like Roxy Blue. And my only answer that I had to that was, it's 20 some odd years later, dude. I mean,
right.
You can't write the same record you wrote 20 years ago. Or you just change as a human being, and you change, and you got different experiences happen in your life. And as a writer, I write from the cuff. So I write about my life experiences or things that have happened around me. So I can't go back and write about, the stripper I saw in LA or I can't, that's not where I'm at anymore. So
just like you said, you're not where you're at anymore with playing Rob the Cradle.
Exactly. And, my daughter, for instance, said that, or one of her friends or something or somebody in her class was freaking out. It was a guy who loved older rock and roll could not believe that her dad was the singer for Roxy Blue. But his said he got turned on to it by his dad
Nice.
or his parents. And that was wonderful for me. But how do you look at, how do I look at it and say, and my daughter to be able to hear her friends, oh yeah, I heard your dad's in right, to say, hey man, that song Rob the Cradle, yeah, that's my dad. Okay, I get it. But if you know when it was and you see when it was, you get it. But if dad was still out there doing Rob the Cradle at my age, I just don't think it's going to come across the same way. It's like, we were talking about Kip Winger,
Right.
you and I the other night, and it's like my buddy John played with Winger, and he's like, and I remember talking to Kip, and Kip saying, that was rough. It's rough to play. She's only 17. And Kip's an amazing musician. I mean, he is a freaking amazing freaking nature musician, man. He's like a great composer and arranger. And I'm sure, but that was a humongous hit for them. So they don't have a choice. He has to play that song. I'm not saying, I don't think we didn't have a major hit, but to our fans, Rob the Cradle was a big song. But yeah, I had to walk away from that one. And like I said, I'm not going to say that I'll never play it again in my life, but it's not on the books right now.
But I give you props for that, man. You're a stand-up guy for that.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Family first, right?
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah, man,
Nice.
It's cool, man. So, yeah, dude. But hey, dude, anytime you want to call me, man, I got you logged in. You can call me anytime and we'll rap.
I appreciate it, Todd. Hey, man, good luck on that new single coming out. And
I'll
let me
make
know
sure
when
you get it.
Yeah, do that, man, because I was just going to say, let me know when it's about to be out.
I will. I'll send you a copy of it so you can rock it out.
Sounds great, Todd. All right, buddy.
I hope you have a great day, man. And I got you logged in my phone. So let's just stay in touch. And I really appreciate you reaching out to me. And it was had a good talk.
Absolutely, man. Same here.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Todd. You take care.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that wraps it up for my interview with Todd Poole of Roxy Blue. I could honestly just sit there all day and listen to Todd. Notice I said listening. I never got a word in edgewise, but that's okay, man. Todd got some stories to tell. And that passion, I could just feel it coming out of him when he was telling me all the stories about Jani Lane and Warrant. And listen, how about that moment when Todd and I are talking about Jani Lane and Warrant and the song Cherry Pie, and it comes on the radio, and Todd is freaking out. And I was too, because that was just like a sign from above from Jani. Synchronicity, as I said earlier. And those are the kind of moments, man, that remind me that music touches everyone's soul. And don't forget, we got some new music coming out by Roxy Blue in 2026. Keep your eyes and your ears open for that, because I know if Todd even captures just a fraction of that energy in the songs that he had in that interview today, oh, wow, man. I can't wait to listen. And before I end the show today, I just want to give my condolences to the family of Scott Trammell. And Todd did say this: the Roxy Blue family, it runs deep, and losses like Scott, man, it's felt by everyone in the music industry. Thanks so much for listening to Gen X Marks the Spot podcast. Peace out. Props for listening. I'm Joe Augustine.
It's the Gen X Marks the Spot podcast.